Okay, guys, this is starting part two here of From Nothing's reveal on the original Black Natives, where he pretty much debunks all of the theories of blacks being here and there and anywhere other than West African primitives in the old times, and Egyptians, Olmecs, the Americas, anything along that line, really. And hopefully you've seen part one. If you haven't seen part one, it'll be in your top right hand corner at the end of this, and it's got a good message to it. I wish I would have said at the end of the last one, this does contain a good message. Hopefully I could get most people that have seen one to see part two, because he contains a decent message, and I'll try to have one for you too. Let's continue.
The wars against the Ashanti Empire, located in the Gold Coast, or what is known today as Ghana. AAVE, or African American Vernacular, also contains several borrowed elements, including the absence of an R at the end of certain words, the use of double negatives, and even certain slang such as attributing the words cool or chill with something being good, relaxed, or calm.
Here's where I ended last one, and I want to start there and continue on. There's other things I could have said there. The vernacular of blacks in America currently is to not say quarter, but to say quota, and to not have the end on it. Well, a lot of English vernacular has that in it too, and you can see that a lot in the islanders of the Jamaicans, who actually really have quite an Irish accent, Irie man, and built into their language that has it there. And you'll find somebody like in Australia, or perhaps a New Zealander, who can't even say the N word with a hard R on the end of it, because they don't, if they try, they can kind of pull it off. But if they just speak a word with an R on the end of it, it doesn't have that. And so it's an Ebonics thing, though, that got embraced whenever I was a kid, where blacks were actually doing terrible in English. And this is when affirmative action was being put in and things. They were getting terrible in English because of verb tenses. I is and we is instead of we are and they, and first and perfect tenses, and all these things they have, which is really a language we've kind of ditched now, but we still keep up with correct tenses of verbs. And blacks seem to have a lot of trouble with that. It's because in their ancient linguistics, they didn't have that. They didn't have terms for perfection. They didn't have terms for better than, less than, higher in a tree, lower in a tree. A lot of simplistic terms that they never really had. And therefore, the cognition of those terms and the usage of those in just speaking straight out causes that. But it can easily be taken out. But blacks nowadays are drifting farther and farther away from trying to get away from that, and more into an Ebonic type of language that's hard to understand, or shenizzle. Let's continue.
Very common in several West African languages, but virtually absent in English until it was introduced by African slaves. Moving back to Egypt, and perhaps...
Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I think he tried to attribute slang like cool of the people in sub-Saharan Africa to actually be something that couldn't have been from Caucasians. Cool and groovy and all those things. Cool or chill out, man. You know, you get hot. So get hot and cool down. I can show you a tablet of Sumerians that has the crap written onto it. So we're not going to try to claim cool. Blacks have come up with some cool vernacular. We're cool with that. We're cool with that. But we're not going to claim that like some kind of Forrest Gump movie where like have a nice day, you know, and try to claim something like that. Next.
The most convincing evidence of pre-Columbian contact rests in the DNA samples of a group of mummies collectively known as the cocaine mummies. In 1992, DNA samples from these mummies were analyzed by German toxicologist Svetlana Balabanova, revealing traces of cocaine and nicotine. While coca and tobacco are both indigenous American plant species, contamination of the samples has not yet been ruled out. As a practice,
I just want to interject in the middle of this. I should let it go the whole thing before I said it, or said something preemptive, so you'd have that knowledge before this was said. But they've now done more and more of them, the University of Manchester and so on, with just the mummies they have. It's not like a grouping or anything, and they have it too and everything, and they've been asked to quit. because it shows pre-world contact, because you'd have to take the plants he's fixing to tell you contain perhaps some bit of tobacco and use it in a way and condense it down in some way to where you could get an amount is shown in these guys. It's not like he smoked a cigarette once. Okay? The level there is like of modern chain smokers and stuff. Well, they say, well, they stuff the body with tobacco, and you're like, okay, he didn't smoke. They stuff the body with tobacco from the New World. Is that what you're going to go with? What's cocaine in there? It's a numbing agent. They know they had opium and things, but now it shows that they may have had a contact before, and people with their now dogmas, Wacademy, does not want to go, well, what the hell? Look at this. How did they get to that island? They had a boat. Well, they went that far. Well, if you go this way and you go that far, you'll kind of whoop and you'll run right into. How did Easter Islanders get there? How did but they won't give credit to anybody that's been able to do it, and other people are trying to take credit to never really had a boat. Let's go.
Practices of handling these sites was less standardized and more invasive during the time that these mummies were discovered. There are also other nicotine-bearing plants that are indigenous to the Old World and were well known in Egypt, such as tea and pepper. Nicotine is a compound produced by various different plant species to ward off insects. In fact, it has historically been used as a pesticide. But
imagine if they did that in the purification of the body, because they've stuck tobacco in wounds, and it's some of the ancient poultices that they used to make in Americas and stuff because of its antibacterial properties and its pests and things, so you wouldn't get flies on it so much, and all these things could cause problems, right? And so did they use that in the bodies? Because they're in Egypt inside of a tent, probably got flies around like crazy, and if they utilized this in some way, could they have made a pesticide that kept the flies from trying to get on it, so they didn't have to have people 24/7 swatting like crazy constantly or anything? It's possible. Those amazing Caucasians.
that said, out of all the evidence presented thus far, this is the most convincing evidence of Africans reaching the Americas in pre-Columbian times. But
and by Africans, he means Caucasians.
And then, it's very spotty. Lastly, the only skeletal evidence of undeniably African people found in the Americas were the whole base skeletons, 2 African male skeletons that were unearthed in the Virgin Islands in the year 1974.
I'd like to jump in here too. Look at the nasal slit of this one coming down to the left as compared to the next one that comes down. What you're looking at here is an extreme Caucasoid, possible mulatto, if not Caucasian. And then you will see a Negroid come afterwards. Although it shows some prognathism to its jaw, shown on the right-hand side. So this is some, what's this? And the variation of these two perked the people up quite a bit. They're like, so these 2 skulls are found right here, and there's 2 different people right here, so what happened? And it's a forensic battle. Let's continue.
They were radiocarbon dated to sometime between 950 and 1250 CE.
Oops.
However, the site contained a mixture of Native American pottery
It's a
and
Caucasian
colonial-era coffin nails, which suggests that at least one of the skeletons was intrusive, while the site was also susceptible to seawater, which could have
Now look at the
contaminated
nasal
the
slit
remains.
there.
Thus,
That's what a Negroid nasal slit looks like. I hope I didn't cut them off right in the middle. I know I did. Let's go.
tests remain inconclusive. In conclusion, there are countless theories and suggestions of blacks living in the Americas in pre-Columbian times. Some pointing towards indigenous black populations, while others lean towards ancient African explorers. However, there is no solid evidence of African people existing in the Americas in pre-Columbian times.
No, there's not at all. In fact, what it's shown is that some dark-skinned islander people that were here, but then again, those probably have more of that Denesovsn mix that doesn't have anything to do with the little kids that you're looking at here, and has to do with other people that had dark skin, that at one time the Caucasians that were running all the rest of the world and got advanced and started investigating everything go, well, these guys got dark skin, so how does that all work? Well, they checked it out, linguistics, skulls and everything, and they went, oh wow, so these are different. How are they different? How are they connected? Over time we figured out they're not really connected, and they're quite different. And when we figure all that out, black people are currently saying, no, we're black people were all over Asia. They were all over everywhere, and they really weren't at that time. Now he shows a glimpse of something else that's even more disgusting, where black people who were never part of the Bible, in fact, were people from the Jewish slave masters. He's the one that had the Bible, the Caucasian religion that built and made up the Bible, that comes out of all Proto-Indo-Europeans and Sumeria, attached with some Egyptian, and then with current Canaanite beliefs, and of course Greco-Roman beliefs, and a lot of beliefs are attached in all the way up through the Celts and everything, but it really doesn't connect anything to black people whatsoever. And they've got them in clown suits now, trying to say that they are the Israelites, and it's because they identify with slavery, and he'll tell you that clearly. Let's continue.
I personally feel like this theory has gained ground in a similar fashion to the Black Jew Israelite movement. Blacks in the West grew up in a society that treats them as though their history is irrelevant until the birth of the transatlantic slave trade, and that Africans were nothing more than hut-dwelling hunter-gatherers until modern times.
Well, that's actually true. The kind of a pre-Stone Age level people. And again, I guess here on the way out, I'm it sounds berating and stuff, but actual truth is people were at that level. Now, what is amazing is if you would take pride in what you've actually been able to do, regardless of with help or not. For Caucasians helped each other. Not a single civilization from the ancient times is what they are today through the trade of each other and trade of knowledge that whiteys frequently, or quite oftenly, and really just outwardly give to the world. We made airplanes. Pretty soon we had everybody doing airplanes. We didn't try to make it anything like that. All the computer technology we're using today and everything, we're sharing it with the Chinese. They're making it a little smaller. We're turning it back into something bigger. They take it and make it smaller. We make it something stronger and bigger. They go, well, I'd make that about the same size as that if we tried real hard. It's an amazing handshake that's going on. There needs to be handshakes between blacks, but blacks don't want to shake the hands of whites that helped them, or that freed them, or that are giving them a chance in a modern world, and it's gotten to be quite disgusting. On the flip of that pancake, though, as you turn it over and you go, man, that side of the pancake looked terrible. It's almost burnt. Let's throw that one out of the pan. Let's do another one. And as soon as it bubbles, let's flip it. This one's going to be better. It's amazing what black people have been able to do. It's terrible that you do put in things like Bill Cosby still in these black people's Black History Month type things whenever we found out what's happened now, and things like that are probably far too often found in the black community, and things, and they seem to be just gripping out at anybody that has given them any oppression and see if they can attach onto that. No, I'm sorry, that pancake burnt too. Let me flip that out of it. Let me give you a better look at this. It's amazing what black people have been able to do from a primitive pre-Stone Age illiterate people just a short time ago into what they've become now. It's because of a lot of Caucasian assistance. In fact, Africa relies on Caucasian assistance today, but everybody assists each other in a new and modern world. There are people that don't want to be a part of making America great, that used to be a part of people making America great. Sure, they had a different origin from the people that originated America, but they've been adopted in as Americans, and it seems in this last generation especially, and since the time of Martin Luther King, that they desperately don't want to be Americans. They want to be in America and take advantage of all the things of America and get money from Caucasians and welfare and affirmative action, but they don't want to be Americans. Now, a lot of people are going back to Africa, and it really seems to be a better answer with the movie Wakanda coming out, getting blacks possibly an idea of what they could do if they went back there. If they do anything in Americas, it's always going to be after help of Caucasians, and look what they can do now, and in Africa it maybe looked the same way, but the most non-advanced place on the planet is sub-Saharan Africa, and it's been helped a whole lot. China's about to just rip it a new one too, if anybody looks into it, but once that ends, the world can become a more unified place. If blacks could go back and help their own people and make that happen, that would probably accelerate it and give it a chance for it to be something that black people actually had a huge part in, versus it being done for them as they keep destructing it. If you'll understand my meaning. Let's continue.
Many blacks will respond to this by seeking some form of link with another culture that is more well known and appreciated than Africans, all the while remaining ignorant of their actual civilizations that existed in Africa throughout history. They will try to
I'm going to back that whole statement up for you because I talked over it twice, I'm sure, and I would like for that to be a complete sentence.
of the African people existing in the Americas in pre-Columbian times.
No.
I personally feel like this theory has gained ground in a similar fashion to the Black Jew Israelite movement. Blacks in the West grew up in a society that treats them as though their history is irrelevant until the birth of the transatlantic slave trade, and that Africans were nothing more than hut-dwelling hunter-gatherers until modern times. Many blacks will respond to this by seeking some form of a link with another culture that is more well known and appreciated than Africans, all the while remaining ignorant of their actual civilizations that existed in Africa throughout history. They will try to find links to any and every culture around the world but their own, pretty much. To be honest, it saddens me, and I don't blame them for feeling this way, when raised in a society that treats them as if their history is worthless or irrelevant.
No one treats them as their history is worthless or irrelevant. In fact, the ones that are the worst perpetrators of such are black people. There was a Kwanzaa movement for a little while and some other things, which that really seems to be more of a separationist movement. And you see that type of thing where they go, well, we're going to have our own Christmas since Santa Claus is white. Well, look, we're sorry that all of these, you're living in a country that's developed by people that had all these heritages. So, to sit and throw a fit in that country rather than to adopt it is kind of disgusting. It's okay, though, and it's okay for anybody to have their own thing in America. But if your own thing is hating Americans, then that's not too cool. And it's sad that we see today a lot of Americans hating America, and we also see them trying to hate the president, which was voted in, even though it was tried real hard not to. And a guy that's actually made black unemployment the lowest ever in recorded history, and so much is happening, and he's hampered. He's got 3 limbs tied behind his back, and they broke his hand and won't shake it. And he's still getting this pulled off. Could you imagine what could happen if they just stopped this democratic stupidity of trying to be anything but what he says? If they say grass is green, they're going to start saying it's blue. So he's looking up swords, and sword and swordmanship and weapons and stuff is not really anything found in Negro history. Really, it's more spears, pointed objects, blunt objects, and so on. Once they ran into Caucasians, they started developing shields, which they saw the other guys using. Before that time, it's believed they weren't really using that type of thing. It's serious, people. It is of that level. Let's not try to lie. It's not good for anybody, except for the people that want to lie. And then that's not good for them. Seriously.
I personally felt the same way when I was younger, but through my own research and initiative, I learned a lot about my ancestors and gained a humbling appreciation for it. And quite frankly, this humbling led to the creation of From Nothing. I feel like it's important to include real African history in movies, media, video games, and the likes, just as...
But there's a problem whenever you do that. There's a problem whenever you make an Egyptian movie and black people that had nothing to do with it get real mad about it. There's a problem whenever you make a video game about, Dungeons and Dragons, and you put black people in there. Well, is there really? No, as long as we have the understanding of such. Neverwinter, a game that I play right now, we go into a land that time forgot with dinosaurs still and blah, 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 kind of like an African idea, and we're dealing with these people, only they seem to have a whole lot of honor, and they've had something bad happen to them. We're all trying to help them out. course, we've done that to every other place that we've run into, and all those people are white people, from Nordic ice giants to all kinds of different people and stuff, and getting run over by undead and dragons and all kinds of silly little things. But in that same situation, do black people need a presence in video games? Of course. They need a sense of worth and stuff, and you should always be able to make a black person. For in any video game that's going to have a black person, it should be a black person. Should we make a video game where Egyptians were black? No, we shouldn't do that. Why? Because it gives a false sense to people in a lie. And no. Why feed that lie? Why try to make Hannibal a black person in a movie? Why try to make people that were West African primitives into anything other than that in history? Black people get mad that sometimes they're shown in Roman movies as being kind of like the servants and stuff, and it's like, well, they weren't even really at that time either, but they're trying to put black people in the movie, and you're still mad, because that would have been the heritage if it would have been, and there was some at the end, but it wasn't the people that were there, like he talked about in Clyde Winters, which I've done a couple of videos on, we're about to go into heavily, which he, a black man here, totally refutes with this video, and more.
Other cultures around the world are represented. This would show people of the black diaspora that they do in fact have a history to be proud of, and beautiful cultures and peoples to identify with, instead of living their entire lives angry and upset and stealing the history of other peoples. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget that if you'd like to join the Discord community,
you ought to check out his channel and stuff. He's very elegant with his speech. He's got something going on mentally, and his other videos, he's thrown a lot of them away. I was directed to go back to this by somebody saying a lot of his old videos don't connect. In fact, probably one that I did the Debunks on doesn't connect, because he right here is telling you exactly the opposite, because before he was showing you pictures of natives of America that looked a little dark, one holding a spear and saying blacks were in America before, and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, if I totally am, I apologize for it. But no, I think I've been through so many of these. If I remember, though, he didn't used to have the cartoon thing. He used to talk directly to the camera and smile. He's got a very round face, and then he started making these, and he's gotten real good at this too and stuff off of it. Again, see, it's amazing what they can do. Now, did he make the computer or any? No. But it's amazing what you can do with it. Did blacks make the muses, the amplifiers, the microphones, and things that that they use for music? No. But it's amazing the cool music they make. White people, instead of totally rejecting it, embrace it. Black people, instead of embracing white people's thing, nowadays are trying to totally reject it. It's gotten to be a bad thing. The statement here, let's go on this again. I'm guessing I'm gonna go from right here and let it finish out, because it as itself is a full statement.
blacks in the West grew up in a society that treats them as though their history is irrelevant until the birth of the transatlantic slave trade, and that Africans were nothing more than hut-dwelling hunter-gatherers until modern times. Many blacks will respond to this by seeking some form of link with another culture that is more well-known and appreciated than Africans, all the while remaining ignorant of their actual civilizations that existed in Africa throughout history. They will try to find links to any and every culture around the world but their own, pretty much. To be honest, it saddens me, and I don't blame them for feeling this way, when raised in a society that treats them as if their history is worthless or irrelevant. I personally felt the same way when I was younger, but through my own research and initiative, I learned a lot about my ancestors and gained a humbling appreciation for it. And quite frankly, this humbling led to the creation of From Nothing. I feel like it's important to include real African history in movies, media, video games, and the likes, just as other cultures around the world are represented. This would show people of the black diaspora that they do in fact have a history to be proud of, and beautiful cultures and peoples to identify with, instead of living their entire lives angry and upset and stealing the history of other peoples. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget that if you'd like to join a Discord community of over 250 members who discuss topics like these all the time.
So he's got a bunch of videos out, and a lot of them will show you this African symbol here and everything, Stone Age people, misconceptions, and so on. And he tries to show you certain people that had certain things going on. And I'm telling you that when we talk about Neolithic type Stone Age, no, they were Stone Age people. No, they weren't Neolithic type Stone Age, and so the comparison of the two are quite bad. People will tell you right here in the comments here. Look at this guy. Oh, the comment section is going to erupt. So they'll call black Native Americans and Hebrews are coming. Watch out tomorrow morning how much the hate and insults are going on. And believe it or not, that's a black person that is saying this, Admari Kashiri. I don't understand why some of us just can't accept the fact that we have African heritage. Zacchus Balls, which looks like he could lie, but no. Dope comment on the end, brother. Our history is deep, colorful, and glorious. We don't need to insert other cultures and histories in our own. No, you're not part of the Bible, not part of the Egyptians. Both of those are Caucasian things. It's a Caucasian religion that you've adopted. It's a beautiful story. It has connections, and if done in a correct way, if you believe, you might be able to go to heaven too. But if you blaspheme the image of God, lie, covet, and bear false witness, I can make a prediction right now. I can't believe the black Hebrew Israelites are trying to indoctrinate kids in that way of thinking. Shake my damn head. Natives up north had hooked and straight noses, while in Mexico and other warmer areas they had wider noses. Makes sense. Great video, by the way. Yeah, that seems to blanket across any civilization somewhat. This is about to bring out Dane Calloway's crazy cult fanatics. Yeah, there's not just Dane Calloways, there's a lot of them. Watch my videos. Watch the comments down in this one blow up. Or, man, it's funny, whenever I really peg it hard, I usually don't get very many people come in, or they'll come in and just start talking about cave ape crap or something, Neanderthal. They like to take that 1.1 to 4% Neanderthal and throw it out. The truth is they aren't Negroid, but they're in fact Mongoloids. The blacks who say they're natives don't want to accept their African origins and want to steal somebody else's culture. Yeah, and really the Amerindians seem to be a Caucasoidish type of Mongoloid, Asiatic, Eskimo, and Inuit blend. It's gone on, and I have a video out that shows that preemptive to those, a Caucasoid, Proto-Indo-European people coming across. So he loves how your channel is rooted in the truth instead of lies, and yet, I don't know, that picture there tells you that guy's probably on other sites constantly in the other way. Self-hate is in our community, and it has got to stop. Yep. Thanks so much. Thanks for this. Absolutely high-quality content. Don't stop. I agree. High-quality content from that guy. More high quality than me, for I just do things and rant a little bit and try to show you stuff. I don't have a real cool cartoon making deal. I mean, that's wicked. That's pretty badass. Yeah, that's amazing. This comment section is going to be something else. Centrist destroyed by facts and logic. Please don't refer to West African and Bantu interchangeably, just for the simple fact many not so informed people will claim that West Africans and Bantus are the same. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. That's what I love about your channel. Donnie Stanley. Anyhow, this was an excellent video with a very important message to the black community. I'm glad I'm back to supporting you. So he had left supporting him maybe whenever he had put out other videos before. And yeah, it seems like he's lost a lot of those. Yeah. What gods do Africans worship? Well, the Africans in America, if you're talking, when you say African, if you're meaning sub-Saharan Negroid Africans, the ones in America are generally worshiping a Caucasian god, whether it is the Islamic version of the Islamic slavers that started 900 years before the Americas were even found, or if it's from anything called the Bible, pretty much. They actually were an illiterate people, didn't have writing, and Nisbiti is not writing, and no one can decipher it. Black people don't even know what it means, so that's pretty much out too. Anyhow, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. And it's about time for foolishness like this to end, although it's going to die a slow, painful, sad death, and will be the joke on Negroids for a long, long time after the people that are yapping this stuff are gone too, because of this fact. But it has to really go the other way, or black people are just doomed to just sit and run themselves into the ground by their own hands. By their own hands. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.